The following day was a very fine day indeed. Preparations were well underway for the great paper chase, and the news had spread through the forest, helped along by Spotty. Henry and Bojun had spent all of last evening tearing the paper bag into lots and lots of tiny pieces, and it was decided that Henry, since it was his idea, should be the one to lead the chase. Bojun was so excited he could hardly manage to eat any breakfast, so he filled all his pockets with blackberries in case he got hungry on the way. There was such a coming and a going. Albert the squirrel had finished his homework early and was sitting waiting for someone to fetch him when it was time. Millicent Mouse had had a very busy morning trying to find a babysitter to look after her babies, and finally old Oo the owl had said he would do it, because playing games was rather below his dignity. Millicent had never seen a dignity and wondered what one looked like, but she was too polite to ask, and hurried over to her sister's house to tell her about the big paper chase. At last, when the sun set that the middle of the day had arrived, all the forest friends met at Bojun's house to find out what they had to do. Henry was feeling very important indeed, with a pouch holding all the paper slung over his shoulder. He gave a loud cough, and everybody stopped talking and looked at him. Friends, relations, and neighbours, and anyone else who has turned up, are we all here?
No, shouted Spotty. Albert isn't.
Well, where is he then? Asked Henry.
I know where he isn't, said Spotty. He isn't here, which means, he said, that he's somewhere else.
Ah, said Bojun, because that was all he could think of. Quite, said Henry. Then I suggest, Spotty, that you go and look for him. Spotty wished that he'd kept quiet as he flew away to Albert's house. While the others waited for Albert and Spotty to return, Henry told them all what was going to happen. And what was going to happen was this. I, Henry, since it was my idea, am going to run as fast as I can through the forest, laying a trail as I go. What's a trail? Asked Bojun. Paper, said Henry. A trail is lots of pieces of paper, which you all have to follow until you catch me.
What do we do when we caught you?
Asked Harry the Hedgehog. What? Said Henry. Why, well, we all come back and have tea. Everyone thought this was the most wonderful game in the world. As soon as Albert and Spotty get here, continued Henry, I shall run as fast as I can while you all count up to 100. Everyone went very quiet. Henry, said Bojun. Yes, said Henry. Well, I just had a thought. I don't think I can count up to 100, you see. I only have 3 toes on each foot. Oh, said Henry. He hadn't thought about that. Well, he said, after a minute, if you all count up to 3 one at a time, that should do just as well. Ah, said Bojun. Albert and Spotty were a long time coming, and Henry was wondering if they should start without them. But at last 2 little figures arrived, quite breathless, and a cheer went up. Hooray! Now we can start counting, said Harry. Start whatting? Said Albert. I thought we were going on a paper chase. Henry decided he'd better leave because he didn't want to say anything that might upset anyone, so, I'm off, he shouted, and a cloud of white paper flew into the air, and by the time it had settled, Henry could just be seen disappearing into the distance, singing tra-la, tra-la at the top of his voice, while on the ground lay a beautiful trail of white paper. What now? Said Albert in amazement. Harry Hedgehog shouted, 1, 2, 3, and dashed off in hot pursuit of Henry. Millicent Mouse squeaked, my turn now, 1, 2, 3, and promptly ran off in the wrong direction. You know, Bojun said, I think we're doing something wrong. I'm going home, said Albert, and he walked off in disgust. Spotty looked at Bojun.
What do we do now? he asked. Bojun thought for a minute. I think the best thing to do would be to find Henry and ask him. Right, said Spotty. Come on. And the two friends set off after Henry.
Henry, by this time, was far away in a part of the forest he'd never seen before. He had also run out of paper. He sat down under a tree on a rather lumpy rock to get his breath back. "Get off, sir," said an angry voice. Henry looked behind him, then he looked in front of him, and then he looked up, but apart from a bee sitting on a flower, there was no one to be seen anywhere.
Very odd, thought Henry. I could have sworn I just heard someone say something.
"If you don't get off at once, I shall tip you into the swamp," said the angry voice.
Henry sat very still and tried to pretend he wasn't there. He looked down in a very casual sort of way, and then he looked up again very quickly.
"Oh, dear me," he said. "I thought I just counted 4 feet now. I know I only have 2 feet, so that means that there's somebody that I'm sitting on."
"Get off!"
shouted the voice so loudly that Henry let out a great yell and shot up the tree. He clung to the branch in a great fright. Who, he stammered.
"Are you an owl?" asked the voice.
"No," gulped Henry. "If you please, I'm a mickable. Who are you?"
"I," said the voice, picking itself up,
"I am a squamp."
Henry said,
"You're a very lumpy squamp."
"I know," said the squamp proudly. "I'm also a very hungry squamp."
Henry gulped very loudly and decided that it was really quite pleasant sitting up in the tree, so he thought that he'd better stay there a bit longer. Meanwhile, Bojun and Spotty had arrived at the end of a paper trail.
"Ah," said Bojun, "it's disappeared." "Perhaps the wind blew it away," said Spotty.
"What are we going to do?" said Bojun.
"Let's shout," answered Spotty. "Maybe Henry's hiding somewhere."
So the two little friends took a very deep breath.
"Henry!"
"Hello," said a squeaky voice. It was Millicent Mouse.
"I thought I was lost. I'm glad I'm not."
"Not what?" said Bojun.
"Lost,"
said Millicent. "Are you?" said Bojun. Spotty thought that the conversation was getting rather silly, so he said,
"Have you seen Henry by any chance?"
"No," said Millicent. "I was hoping that you had."
"Had what?" said Bojun.
Spotty said crossly, "You really are not very intelligent, Bojun, are you?"
"When you lot have quite finished, perhaps you'll get me out of here," came Henry's voice.
"Out of where?"
called Spotty. "Here," called Henry. "I'm stuck up this tree, and there's a great grey lumpy squamp just near where you are standing." The three friends grabbed each other.
"Oh," said Millicent, "what's a great grey lumpy squamp?"
"I am," giggled the squamp in Bojun's ear. So there were the four friends all sitting up in the tree. The lumpy squamp looked up at them.
"I'm going away now to sharpen my tooth."
And with that it lumped away, licking its lips. Quicker than you could say tea time, it was back. But all that could be seen of our four friends was a tiny cloud of dust far away in the distance. The lumpy squamp gave a great sigh.
"Some people are funny," he thought.
The lumpy squamp gave a great sigh.
"Some people are funny," he thought. "I was just about to invite them home for something to eat."
And he lumped away into the swamp and was never seen again.